Mario Kart 64 is a game I got almost a year ago, so I've decided to finally rank all the tracks from the game. While in my opinion this is the weakest 3D Mario Kart besides Tour, many of these tracks have great designs and music. With that said, let's rank them all. Coming in last place we have the starter track, Luigi Raceway. The layout for this one is very simple, as it is of course the starter course we all know and love. While this is pretty good at its job of introducing you to the controls of the game, there's not much reason to play it after your first playthrough. Still better than Figure 8 Circuit though by a landslide. In 15th place we have the second track of the Mushroom Cup, Moo Moo Farm. I'll be honest with you, I do have a soft spot for this track. As possibly the biggest Moo Moo Meadows fan on the platform, I can say with solidarity that the 64 original isn't nearly as good as its remix, but that doesn't stop it from being a nice charming starter course. I originally used to be far less forgiving to Mario Raceway, but after playing it on Switch, I've come around to enjoying its design, and there's tons of off-road which makes this an excellent backing track. I also do love the giant pipe at the end, but unfortunately you can't trick off it like in Wii. Still a solid Mario circuit, in all but name. I'm surprised I ranked Toad's Turnpike only at 13th place, since I actually really do like this track. The concept of driving alongside traffic was first tried out in Mario Kart here, but I'd be lying if I said it holds up amazingly. While I do prefer the Mario Kart 8 remake, the 64 original has some things that were missed out, such as a high intensity and difficulty. This, in mirror mode, is one of the least forgiving tracks in the series. In 12th place we have the iconic Kalimari Desert. This is my favourite desert track in 8 Deluxe, but unfortunately I'm not as fond towards the 64 original. It's basically just a loop around a train track in the middle of nowhere, but of course you can go off the rails of the track entirely, which adds so much to the course. I used to have this one ranked much higher, but after playing it for myself, Wario Stadium dropped a few spots. The main problem with this one is it's just way too long. This should have been a 2-lap track similar to Wario Coliseum in Double Dash, since the length does bore the player after the first lap or so. However, what it does have is really cool, with satisfying turns and cool jumps throughout the track. Starting off the top 10 we have the iconic Choco Mountain. This track is often described as being claustrophobic, but if I'm honest, I prefer a closed mountain range to the cliffs we got in 8 Deluxe's remake. However, the course does have some standouts, including its music, which is one of my favourite soundtracks in 64. The course may be quite repetitive aesthetically, and the layout is nothing special, but I do like how charming this track can be. Just missing out on the top half of the list we have Banshee Boardwalk. This works rather well as the penultimate track of the game with its ominous atmosphere and solidly difficult layout. In fact, to me, this was initially the hardest course in the game due to the low visibility and sharp turns. Of course, the Murder Shack is always a highlight of this track, and overall, I would say that this is a great precursor to GBA Blue Lake in the Booster Course Pass. Starting off the top half of the list we have Peach's track, Royal Raceway. This is easily the best circuit track in the game, and one of my favourites in the series. Maybe I'm just a noob, but I actually find this track solidly difficult. The Royal aesthetic is definitely charming, and of course, you can go into the iconic Peach's Castle grounds from Mario 64, a game Delta Gaming has tried to complete for me. I have very fond memories of Sherbet Land on the Wii, and since I got the online expansion pack on the Switch, this track has probably been my most played on the 64 system. It's like if Nintendo had a look at Vanilla Lake, asked themselves what it would look like in 3D, with much better ice physics, and of course, penguins. The cave section is my favourite part of the track, although it is sometimes a pain to get through without being hit. Right above it we have the other snow track, Frappe Snowland. I actually love the aesthetic of this one, it's so cozy and makes you feel right at home. This shares a theme with Sherbet Land, and it's probably my favourite in all of Mario 64 with the exception of Rainbow Road. The layout of this one is solid as well, and I especially love the section with all the snowmen. Quite disappointed this is basically confirmed to not be coming in the Booster Course Pass, but I guess GBA Snowland can avenge it. Our top 5 begins with the track themed around our second favourite Kong. DK's Jungle Parkway is a fantastic adventure that takes you through the jungle next to a river with a steamboat going through. This track, along with Royal Raceway, has a great big jump which would undoubtedly be turned into a glider in a modern remake. This bridge at the end is also a great place to pelt items at people. Koopa Troopa Beach, while not my favourite beach track of all time, has got to be one of my favourite tracks in this game. It's so mellow and chill, it rarely gets boring. The jumps are a cool addition, although fairly trippy when you realise this is a game without the Wii's trick mechanic. My favourite part of this is the huge shortcut which I can proudly say I've generally mastered in time trials. Overall, this is easily the most underrated track in the game. I know this is definitely a controversial take, but I'm placing N64 Rainbow Road in the top 3 tracks in the game. Something about this one is just so fun to play. The music is my favourite theme in the entire series, with the exception of, yes, Moo Moo Meadows. I know the length can make it a bit monotonous at parts, but with the Ultra shortcut, which I'm proudly able to do no bother, you can put that time down immensely. Overall, this track is one of the best in the game, and its remake in 8 is still one of my favourite tracks of all time. I don't know what to personally say about the N64 Bowser's Castle that hasn't been said already, so I've decided to hand this one over to the kingly Albert Boris.
Thank you, Osbers. So yeah, N64 Bowser Castle. My favorite Bowser Castle track in the series, even 8 games after its original release. Unlike other Bowser Castles, which try to focus on the chaos and put realism second, this version leans fully into the realism, and is able to create an eerie atmosphere rarely seen in Mario Kart, and certainly not like any other Bowser's Castle. This track doesn't need the bells and whistles which new variants rely on. There's nowhere near as much lava, no statue that shoots fireballs. It's just an ominous, realistic castle, and that makes it all the better. It's hard to describe just how immersive and realistic this one feels. There's a reason why this version of Bowser's Castle will always be my favorite of all time.
As YouTube's professional Yoshi fanatic, I can say I've done it again. Yoshi Valley is an incredible track in 8 Deluxe, so to go back onto its roots on the Nintendo 64 was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. It's definitely very different, and resembles a valley more, hence the namesake. The porcupines here aren't much of a challenge, but the layout definitely is. It's often unclear which way to go, which really just adds to the chaos of this track. In fact, you can't even see your placement while driving, only at the very end. This course is so iconic and fun, and that's why it deserves the #1 spot on my list. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to Albert Boris.